extraordinary young artist who emigrated to the United States from Romania as a small child was astonishing art critics and collectors alike as an artist in the United States before the age of 10. She was a prodigy in the field of the visual arts that has produced few prodigies. From the start, she was a master of form and color and worked in a free, modern, abstract style, and it is her command of it that astonished those who saw her paintings for the first time and delighted those already familiar with them. This artist is Alexandra Nechita. Now 16 years old, Alexandra Nechita pushes her art to new, original, personal expressions, using self-exploration and constant discovery to paint what she feels. In doing so, she expresses her soul and touches the souls of those who see her paintings. She talks about how art entered her life as a very young child and her first solo exhibition at the age of 8.
It all began with coloring books and, washable markers and Crayolas. That's how it started. That's how every little 2-, 3-year-old spends, half their day was coloring and drawing pictures for mom and dad and putting them on the fridge and, Happy Mother's Day, I love you, this, that, don't forget to buy me cookies, this and that, and that's how I began. I began doing that. I loved it so much. I would love to sit down and color in coloring books for hours and hours. That's the one thing that made me different from, the average 2-, 3-, 4-year-old was that I wouldn't color, create a picture, a drawing, and then go away. I would sit there and say, okay, I want to draw this, I want to draw this, and I want to do this, and I want to do that. And I loved overlapping colors and seeing what would come if I put an orange over a green, over this, over that. That's when my parents said, you know what, this is getting a little weird. Why is she doing this so much? They took away my coloring books, and what they did is they just gave me plain sheets of paper, let me use my crayons still and my markers. What I started to do was, staple 20 sheets of paper together and create my own coloring books. I'd have a title page, Alexandra's Coloring Book, and inside I'd have different shapes and forms. And, you wouldn't necessarily be able to distinguish what my creations were if there was anything, any specific element, but they were shapes, they were forms and outlines, black outlines, and I'd color those in. I was in 3rd grade when, you have your day of art or you have your hour of art during the day, and I created this one mask. I remember our project was we were studying Indians and the African culture, and out of a plate I made this mask, and my teacher said, wow, that's kind of cool. He said, do you do this a lot? I said, yeah, I paint a lot at home. I remember when my mom picked me up that day, he asked her about it and said, yeah, actually we have a lot of her work, in our townhouse. It's on the wall. She's painted several oils on canvas, because at that age, 6, 7 is when I started painting with oils. And he said, you know what, I think, there's the Nixon room at the local library that exhibits art of, local students that have won contests or local artists. We can work out for her to have an exhibition. And I had no clue what an exhibition was. It meant nothing to me really at that time. But my parents explained it to me, and what it meant to me was having my paintings on a wall in a big room and having people walk around and looking at them. And that's what I liked. I liked the fact that I could share what I did. I was so proud of my work. I loved it. That's how it started. That's how I had my first exhibition. And I remember a lot of my friends coming and looking at my work and not necessarily impressed, but they were like, oh, cool, I guess. They were a little confused. That was the moment where I saw, this is what I want to do forever. I want people to come up to my work and stand there and look at it and not necessarily admire it, but rather appreciate it and look and say, spend a couple of minutes and try to distinguish what elements are in the piece, what I was trying to say in it. I love going around and explaining my pieces to them, and I think that has been something that's stayed with me. I love sharing my work and sharing, the stories and really the inspirations behind my pieces.
Whether painting a serious piece on a massive canvas or a whimsical drawing on a tablecloth, Nechita's talent, personality, and poise inspires others and has led important organizations to seek her collaboration, from Polaroid's 50th anniversary celebration to the Frank Sinatra Foundation to being named the official artist for the 39th Annual Grammy Awards. Her talent is a gift that goes beyond cultures and languages, and her paintings are admired around the world. Solo exhibitions have been held in the great art capitals of Europe, the Netherlands, Italy, England, and France, in New Zealand and Australia, and in Singapore and Japan. Her work speaks to us all. It is that sense of a shared connection with her audience that has drawn attention worldwide. Nechita finds inspiration for her work within herself and all around her, and what she sees and feels and thinks and dreams cover her canvases. She hasn't forgotten the encouragement and inspiration she had as a young child. She shares her feelings with us about what has inspired her.
You take every single one of my paintings, and there's something behind it. There's an emotion, there's an experience, there's a day, there's an adventure that I have interpreted, through color, through line, through form, through value, through shape. My inspiration comes from everywhere. I mean, day-to-day activities. I'm playing outside with my brother, and there's a certain moment that I capture that in some way just affects me, inside or mentally or visually. Then, I'll go inside, I'll sketch it out, or I'll write something down, or I'll go directly to the canvas. It's just the way I view the world. It's an extension of my reality. My work, Alexandra Nechita's paintings, Alexandra Nechita's work, creations, are Alexandra Nechita. That's who I am. I mean, what you see in my painting is me. It's a mirror image, a perfect reflection of my identity, a perfect reflection of my visions, of my values, of my views, and really my interpretation of the world. That's what it is. I mean, I have paintings that are about issues in regards to peace. I have paintings that are about the environment. I have paintings about my little brother. I have paintings about detangler because my hair is so long. I mean, I have paintings about everything, every single thing that means anything to me. Be it the smallest, most insignificant thing to another person, that may mean the world to me. That's the way I see it. I, at one point, got very discouraged when I was, little, because my friends would just laugh at me and tease me and say, what are you doing that doesn't look like a real person? Why does it have 3 eyes? Why does it have 4 fingers? Why does it have an arm over here when the arm should be over there? And I mean, it got interrogated over and over and over, and I didn't always have a reason. There isn't always a reason for art. There isn't. I mean, it's so intuitive, it's so spontaneous, it's just your way of being. That's why I don't do well in math. That's why I don't do well in science, is because there's always an assured right answer. In art, there isn't. There is nothing you're searching for. You're searching for yourself in your creation. You're searching for your purpose, not someone else's. And so that's where my inspiration. I mean, I am my inspiration. Really, it's who I am. My family plays a big role in my work. I have a lot of paintings about maternal and paternal love. I have just numerous paintings just about my friends, and this whole period, this whole transition of being a child to an adolescent and then growing, eventually becoming an adult. And as far as my style, I mean, it's obviously developed, it's grown a lot. It's abstract expressionist, that's what it's identified as being. But a lot of little kids come up to me and ask me, they're like, is that how you see everything? They're like, how do you see this? Does it look crooked and weird to you, like in your paintings? I'm like, no, I see it the way you see it. But I feel it differently. That's why my work comes this way.
As she works in her studio, she talks about balance in her young life.
Actually, I try to work as much as I can work whenever I can, but I also go to school, so that kind of gets in the way, I guess. But I go to school only 3 days a week, and most people are going to, especially people my age are going to say, oh my God, you're so lucky, and I am lucky, because the days that I don't have something to do, I can spend in my studio. But generally, Thursday and Friday, we're either out of town, or we try to schedule events on those 2 days, so I won't have to, get that in the way of Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday when I do go to school. And so a lot of times during finals, during exams, during SATs or this and that, I don't have that much time in my studio, because I try to prioritize, my academics and try to put them first. But sometimes I really do want to be in my studio and not in front of the computer and not typing, an analysis on Frankenstein or this and that. And so It is difficult, but I do balance it as much as I can. I love working at night, actually, when everyone's asleep and nobody's around. It's hard to balance my traveling career, my school career, as well as the time that I spend in my studio, which I definitely make a lot more of it available if I could, but it's not always possible. So.
Critics and collectors alike are drawn by the sensitivity she displays in her work and the dreamlike intensity. The art draws people in. The artist herself brings them closer. Audiences everywhere have marveled at the natural poise and graciousness of Nechita, and her spirit and energy even at a young age. This youthful gaiety shows through as she cartwheels freely through a Parisian park. For her, the art she has created is its own reward, but her rise to fame has brought many honors and awards as well. Outstanding Artist of the Year in Painting at New York's Lincoln Center, People Magazine's 100 Most Interesting People, the National Endowment for the Arts Light of the Future, Woman of the Year from the American Red Cross, and many, many more. She was selected by the World Federation of United Nations to lead a global arts initiative. The media is very attracted to Nechita, and she has been featured on world news networks, in countless magazines, and in the nation's most prestigious newspapers, as they try to describe the parallel or similarity of her paintings with Picasso's work, although she hadn't seen Picasso's work until after she was exhibiting her own paintings. Then, too, they see a likeness to Braque, Chagall, and Miro. Just as Mozart amazed the world with his unexplainable abilities, so too does Alexandra. From a gallery exhibition on the shores of Lake Geneva, Switzerland, to a retrospective collection at the Canton, Ohio Museum of Art and an exhibition at the Tennessee State Museum, whatever the setting, Nechita's paintings attract huge crowds and evoke strong and lasting emotions. And she works not only with paint and canvas, she is completely comfortable with all forms of media: painting on canvas, etching and lithographs, pen and ink drawings, ceramics, and sculpture in metal and glass. And her talent, her gift, shows through in all. She talks about it.
I love painting. Painting is my number one love. Painting will always be the thing I love the most, the one medium I enjoy doing the most. But along with that comes this desire to learn about new things. Along with that comes the whole title of saying, oh, I've worked with this, I've worked with that, I've done this, I've experimented with this. And I have had, I think, one of the most awesome opportunities to do that. Every time I've wanted to do some printing, I've been able to say, Mom, Dad, I want to do printing. Been able to go to certain places and work on that. And I've started in sculpting, I've started in ceramics, I've started working with metal. A couple summers ago, I had the opportunity to go to Paris and work on all of my etchings and dry points and aqua tints there at an atelier called La Courrière, which is where Picasso completed his Vol Art edition, where Matisse worked, where Miro worked, where Dubuffet created a lot of his printing. I was just so immersed. There was no outside world. It was me, the printer, the plates, the acid baths, the ink. That was all that existed. Nothing else. Nothing else mattered. Nothing else meant anything. This was my own world that I had stepped into, and that you really had to drag me out of it because I loved it so much, and it was this amazing experience. And I've been able to also work on, I've done lots of lithographs, another form of printmaking, and I worked at Mourlot, which is, again, where amazing artists have created their works. And I got a chance for my ceramics to work in the south of France, in Valeris, at the Sassi-Milisi Gallery. And that was, oh man, let me tell you, that was such an experience because with ceramics, that's what I call total spontaneity of color because you have no clue what's going to happen. And at one point, I just got so irritated that I would put on a color, and first of all, it would be very different from the actual pigment, but I would put on more and more and more and assume the color would be bolder, but then again it'd become paler, it'd become more white, or it'd become this, or it'd become that. And I was like, what the heck is going on? I mean, come on, I gotta know something. But I think the fact that I couldn't identify what was happening, the fact, the whole chemical, technical aspect of it, I think that only just made me go, I'm gonna learn more about this. The more I do it, the more informed I'm gonna become, the better I'll know what will happen if I put more, put less, or dilute it more, dilute it less, whatever. And so that's as far as different mediums, but I have been wanting to go back so much to France, to Paris, and work on my printing.
Alexandra returned to her native Romania, and she was greeted by thousands, escorted by the president, and honored by exhibitions at the Presidential Palace and the National Museum of Art. Her country's pride in this beautiful, young, talented artist was evident as she accepted their praise and honors. The year 2000 brought another exhibition at Florida's Coral Springs Museum of Art. And now, in the new millennium, Nechita continues to create, to explore, letting her inner self, her dreams, life around her unfold on her canvases, in her sculpture, and whatever media attracts her. Where will she go from here? How will her work evolve? We'll wait and watch as it happens, treasuring each step into Alexandra Nechita's world in the future. More importantly to her than the fact that her work has won her widespread recognition and admiration is that it has given her the opportunity to help others. And because all of her young life she has had the experience of positive reactions to her work that have allowed her to grow and succeed, she wants to motivate all ages to be free to create, to do what they love, to be unafraid. She expresses this wish to all young artists of her generation.
Really, there's three things to being able to do something with your life. And first thing is being willing to discover something, being willing to search for that passion. I mean, be it, if you find it when you're 2, 3, 4 years old, or when you're 8 years old, young and lucky, as I was, or if you discover it when in your 20s during college, or if you find it when you're 50, be willing to have that surprise. Be willing to discover something that you love. Secondly, believe in yourself. That's the most important thing, really. There's no chronological order to relevance here. But I would say that's probably the main element, is believe in yourself. Set aside all the negativity, set aside any sort of bad energy anyone sends to you, and know that you can do it. And the third thing is surround yourself with people that believe in you as well. Surround yourself by people who are supportive, and really shun out anybody that has any bad things to say, that has any discouraging words to share with you. That's how I wish to inspire kids, and hopefully through my work they can see, you know what, you don't have to wait until you're 35 to become an artist. I was very lucky. I am very lucky to have parents who, you walk into my studio and they'll ask me about what I painted because they still might not get it. To be like, go ahead, continue. Need anything, tell us, let us know. You want to go do this, you want to go do that, let us know. My respect and my gratitude I extend to teachers as well, because what would we do? In my case, what would you do without art teachers? What would you do without people passionate about the arts, about color, about painting, sculpture, printmaking, whatever it may be? What would you do if you don't have someone to guide you and to say, you know what, you know nothing, but I'm going to teach you, I'm going to allow you to know more. And there's so much creativity that just needs to be given a chance to shine and to express itself. And if we do have people who care about us, if we do have people who are willing to pull that talent, to pull that desire out of us, and to show us the way and how to use it and how to manifest it in positive manners, then I think this will be the best generation ever, really.